Hi everyone, and welcome back to Balkan, the show that's going to help you navigate the massive challenges of life, motherhood, culture, identity, and belonging with more ease, acceptance, joy, and purpose. Thanks to each and every one of you that come back every time to listen, learn, heal, and feel inspired. If you do love the podcast, then do me a huge favour and hit the subscribe button. It really does help spread the word.
Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to another wonderful episode. I am sick. What else can I say? I am a hypocrite and I have been burning the candle at both ends. I have been trying to be superwoman and I felt a bit of sickness coming on recently and I just pushed it away. You know, when your body tries to give you warning signs. Yeah, I did listen. I did do all my wellness techniques, but nothing prevailed. And alas, I am feeling unwell and I'm sick. But I'm still showing up because I recorded this episode with lovely Nikolina about a week or so ago. And we had to reschedule once because we were having issues with sound and internet and all the lovely things that you get when you're recording a podcast virtually with someone. So I'm really excited to have her on. And if you literally listen to every single episode, you'll know that I say that all the time. I'm like a broken record, but it's true because I wouldn't bring people on that I'm not excited about, that I'm not inspired by and motivated by. And this podcast as well, for me, you know, as much as it is for you, is a place of learning, a place of connecting, and a place of sharing. And I've had so much going on, as I know you all have in your own lives. And, you know, I've had some new listeners, some from Australia, some from overseas. And it's just awesome because there's so many Balkan women who need a place to connect, who need a place to share, to talk, to tell stories. It's so important to have a place to be able to do that. And I just, not to wander off too much because I want this episode to be about Nikolina, but I recently just got invited to be a guest speaker at the Croatian Women in Leadership event, which was fabulous. So for any of those new ladies listening, I want to say welcome. I will talk more about that event in depth, probably in the next episode or so, and just mainly in regards to imposter syndrome, nerves, anxiety, all that sort of lovely stuff that we get before we're about to do something big and something exciting. But what inspired me most out of talking to Nikolina was us being mothers. You know, we always feel guilty. We always feel guilty when we go and do something productive, or we go and spend time with our friends, or we're resting, or we want to have 10 minutes to ourselves. You know, we always feel bad that we're not necessarily sharing everything with our children or everything with our husband. And through talking to Nikolina and getting to know her a bit better, you know, it reaffirmed what I already knew, which is, you know, do things because of your children. Don't let having kids, you know, hold you back, or let it be a crippling experience where you think, oh, I can't do that because, you know, my kid sleeps at that time. I can't do this. I can't do that. And can't. Which is sort of the headspace I was in when Vita was born. And talking to Nikolina really sort of cemented that notion already of that when you become a mum, things are a cause. Things don't stop, they just pause. They just might slow down. And I see so many women apologizing, you know, for being a shit friend, or I'm sorry, haven't been around, or I don't answer my phone, or, you know, I'm not who I used to be. And you're not meant to be who you used to be. That's the whole point of it. It's a rebirth. You know, when you birth your child, it's also a rebirth of your new identity. And yeah, Nikolina's done just that. She's literally, I love her biography because she's an author, she's a journalist, she's a host, she's a writer. She does so many different and wonderful things. And her biography is amazing because it says Nikolina Koevska Karoufeh is a mum, aka permanent slave to Noah. At times, she adores her new job, and at times, the majority of the time, her patience runs as thin as the dental floss she hasn't used in months. Every day is a new adventure, one that she embarks on with zero quality sleep and red rind-stained pajamas. And she goes on to say so much more. It's awesome. I don't want to give away too much of the book. She has a book called My Mummy Loves Fudge, which is really, really awesome. And she actually has 2 kids, and they're both tiny, tiny, tiny little ones. And it was just such a pleasure to have her on because, you know, her being Macedonian and coming from that European background, and, you know, also having the chance to be in Macedonia and being there with her family and embracing the culture at such a young age, it really shaped her, you know, into who she is today and how she is now. So I love everything about her, and I love this conversation today. I wanted to record an intro before I played the episode because I thought it was really important just to give it more context. Obviously, we only had limited time because, you know, children and life, but I'm so grateful that she came on. You need to check out her Instagram. She's hilarious. She really makes me laugh, and she makes others laugh as well. You know, if you're a mum, if you're a business owner, if you're, you know, an influencer, personal brand, whatever it might be, or you're working on some personal projects, I think you're really going to relate to this story, and you're really going to relate to this talk today, because it's really about, you know, the struggle of trying to balance it all and then just realizing you can't, and that's fine too. So letting some things go, letting some things be, and leaving space for creativity is really important. So whatever your outlet is, I encourage you to use it and to do it more often. Whatever brings peace to your life, to your mind, your body, your soul, and your heart. So yeah, thank you, Nikolina, for coming on. It was absolutely wonderful. I hope we can have you on again. And I hope that you will enjoy this episode. Of course, you know, share it with anybody who you think might benefit from it. And also, yeah, hit me up on Instagram, send me a message, and let me know what you thought of this episode. Without rambling on too much, I will catch up with you guys next week, and I will fill you in on all the wonderful things that have been going on behind the scenes. And in the meantime, I will see you all soon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Balkan Sis. Today's going to be a bloody good one. I can feel it. I can literally feel it. I've been dying to have Nikolina. I've been watching you, and I've been dying to have you on because I just want to fucking talk about mum stuff. Like, I'm so passionate about mum stuff because it's still a wonder even to me how we get shit done. Like, honestly. So you are like the perfect guest to have on today to talk about mum life, work life, wife life, all the things. And plus you're Macedonian too. So I was like, oh my God, amazing. I couldn't have picked it better if I tried. So without further ado, we have Nikolina here. Koevska Karoufeh. Is that right?
That is right. Yeah.
I wanted to pronounce it the right way. I was like, it's a disgrace if I can't pronounce that. I've been practicing. So
well, you're going to pronounce the Koevska correctly because, you know, you're Balkan as well. But the Karoufeh is completely different to what we know. So, yes, I even get tripped up on that new last name.
because I thought my name was complicated. And then I saw your name and I thought, no, I like that I use both my names actually because I don't want to give away like my maiden name. It's important to me, you know. But without further ado, can you sort of just tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background, your heritage, being Macedonian, and what it was like to be a little wog kid growing up in Australia.
I love that. Well, yes, I am a mum of 2. So first and foremost, that's what I do these days. I have a little 2-year-old and a 9-month-old boy. So I'm very busy, as you can imagine. But yeah, I'm from Sydney. I grew up here. I was born in Australia, but I will say that both my beautiful parents who are from Macedonia took us back a lot when we were kids. So I was really lucky in that even though I grew up here with just my family, me, my sisters and my parents, we didn't have anybody else come here from Macedonia. We spent a lot of time there as kids. And I actually went to school there for a couple of years as well. My dad was really, really passionate about us learning the language and being quite familiar with the language, the way of life there, our family. So I was lucky enough, I completed year 2 there and year 4. I think there was also an element of my parents not really sure if they wanted to stay here. So there was a little bit of, we're here, but, we want to go back. We miss our family because, in a Balkan culture, how important that is. And we didn't have anybody here. So they did a lot of that. And so I was lucky enough to learn the language. My mum was a Saturday school teacher as well here in Macedonian language, which I love. So I was in her class and I didn't get preferential treatment. I needed to learn the language. I needed to be good at it. So I've been lucky enough to grow up very enriched in Macedonian culture, but also in a sense, I do feel like I unfortunately missed out on a lot of time with family. Just being, I guess, the first generation, my parents to come here and nobody following along. But I have, been lucky enough to fly over there a couple of times, and we do keep a lot of Macedonian traditions here, and we're a very tight-knit family, but, we still feel like we're our own little wog chaos. So I do really love that. But at the moment, I'm a mum. I am a writer for 9 Honey Parenting. So I basically just do everything to do with mum life. I make my money off it and I look after my children with it. It's like the best of both worlds.
It feeds one into another, doesn't it? It's like because when something is such a big focal point in your life, like how can you not talk about it? Like I remember when I had my son, all I wanted to do 24/7 was just talk about that, like how hard my day was. And then I realized that it just sounded like I was whinging to others, but I was just like having all these big revelations. Like I remember I realized one particular weekend that it didn't matter that it was the weekend. And my mind was just blown. Like I remember waking up, it was a Saturday and I'm like, it doesn't actually really matter if it's a Saturday or a Monday or a Wednesday. You're still a mum and that never ends. And that just hit me. I don't know why that moment was so significant, but can you sort of take us right back to, your first pregnancy with your son, and what were some of your big aha moments that you were having? Obviously still having them now constantly, but what were some of the big ones that really impacted you long term?
Well, I had Noah, or I fell pregnant with Noah. I was 28 at the time. And it's funny because I had Noah, or I tried for a baby, my husband and I should say, but, I carried it, so it's really mine, but whatever. But we tried for a baby very soon after we got married, only because COVID hit. And I think like you, Ivana, I'm a very efficient person, and I am very much about schedule and controlling the things that I can hopefully control. So my thinking is holy moly, I'm not going anywhere the next couple of years. We're not traveling. Things are closing down. We literally weren't even leaving our house. And I said, this is the perfect time for us, if we're lucky enough to fall pregnant, to have a baby. So that was my parenting journey. I kind of scheduled him in. And I thought, this is perfect. I'm, young. I've got energy. Let's get it done. I always wanted to be a young mum. My mum was quite older when she had us. And I felt like she obviously did an amazing job, but I just gained a bit of insight there into thinking I wanted to be a little bit younger to be able to keep up and also just have, an abundant amount of time with them. So I now I have really point at the experience. I very much took the approach of less is more when it came to information. I thought I'm just going to figure it out as I go, because if I get too much information about this, I'm a very anxious person and I'll just blow it out of proportion. Did the same with birth as well. Don't tell me all the things that can go wrong. I want to know just what I need to do, how I need to prepare, and trust in, whatever will happen on the day. So luckily I had an amazing birth and a beautiful, healthy baby boy. But in that, that's when my life, I think, really came crashing down, and my expectations of motherhood were realized. That I was very much off the mark. I honestly feel like I got hit by a bus. And motherhood for me was a big, steep learning curve. Nothing was about me anymore. Nothing was about my life. Everything was about this baby. There was so much to figure out within that first, 6 months. I felt very overwhelmed, became very anxious. I was just, obviously knowing that, hormones are all around the place and you are naturally an emotional person post-birth, but that took another level for me. And I was very much going through postnatal blues and feelings of isolation and feelings of like, I can say it now, but at the time I was so shameful, but, regret, like, what have I done? I've had babies. Should I have had them this early? Should I have done this? But luckily enough, I got out of that stage. I sought therapy and it was incredibly helpful for me to be able to overcome those postnatal blues and also help with, anything that I experienced between then and now, because motherhood never stops. Even if you, try and get through those postnatal blues, there's other anxieties and stresses and worries that come about. So I feel like in the last 2 years, I've really grown as a mum. To be able to work on those issues and find my own path to motherhood.
Oh, 100%, honestly. And that's the thing, like, it's so noisy out there and you don't realize that when you become a mum, just how much of it becomes this like external thing as well, where it's like people are judging you from the outside. You're feeling eyes looking over at you, because I don't know, your kid's on the swing and you're on your phone and people are like, oh, look at her, she's on her phone, like, when that might be the only moment you've had all day to yourself to check an email to do while you're still working, while you're still trying to make an income, or you could just be replying to your mum or someone, like, because you do feel lonely. It's funny, you can have a whole room full of people, but you still feel lonely. And when you're a high achiever, and I think you're that person who's just like such a perfectionist and wants to just get all this shit done, there's nothing like having a kid to just bring you back down. And I just always say to my husband, like, it was the most fucking humbling experience of my whole entire life, because it just showed me that no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, what you have, what car you drive, it doesn't freaking matter, because all that baby wants is mum.
Yeah.
And when you realize that's also amazing, because it's like, oh, you're this primary caregiver and all they want is you. And it's actually also like when your baby wants you and they're pulling their hands out, you're like, oh, I'm so important, But with such importance also comes such great responsibility. And as they grow and change, it's like you realize that heart just changes. Like, so how has it been for you, like transitioning from one kid to two kid? What are some of the lessons you've learned now with, your second little bubba?
Yeah, well, number one, when I fell pregnant with my second, which was very, soon after my first, that was also tactical. I will admit, I wanted to get the kids done. And I thought, if I'm going to be in this baby stage, I want it to be now, because you would know as well. And as you said, it's so overwhelming. There's so much information and it's changing so often, whether it's to do with baby sleep, baby food, what to put them in, all this new research, all these new products. I found it, it moves so quickly and it changes so quickly that I thought I need to grasp what's current now, because I am not relearning this in 3 to 4 years. I am not getting new products, let's put this all to work.
You'll probably forget by then.
Yeah.
How do I make it puree?
Right? So I thought, I really wanted to have them close together, and I'm very close in age to my sisters as well. I think that's a Balkan thing, you grow up all together and it's really beautiful when you rely on each other. So I wanted to do that. But when I had my second, I very much strategized. I knew what I experienced with my first. So the first thing I did was actually seek antenatal therapy. So I did 8 weeks of therapy prior to Leo being born, just in the kind of preempting whether I experienced any postnatal blues again. As you said, does not discriminate. The struggles of it discriminate. So you could have gone through it before and passed over it, but it might hit you again. You could be the most confident of person, it might hit you again. You could have hired 4 nannies, because you have the money for them to help you with this baby, but you could still be hit with postnatal blues. So I knew that. I wanted to prepare for that, and I documented that in an amazing podcast called Come to Therapy with Me. With 9, which was amazing to share. So that was one way I prepared for the 2. And then the second was very similar to what you were saying as well, is I learned to really prioritize my time. I was the type of person that used, whatever it was, 18 hours of the day to literally do as much as I could and fit as much as I could in. That wasn't working for me when I had a baby. I was really burnt out because I would do motherhood between whatever it was, 6 a.m. to blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as the kids, Noah was in bed, I would, pull out my laptop and start working on my own projects. I'd go to work, take him to daycare, start working on my own projects. I'd use my lunch break to do something. I found that as efficient as you can be, and I'm not saying don't use your time wisely, you can really exhaust yourself doing that. So I think we all as mums need to bring it a step back and think there are endless days coming, there's endless time coming. This period when you have young kids is only for a short amount of time. Use it wisely and you will always be able to get back to your projects. You'll always be able to get back to, your social life and that sort of thing. Try not to really stress about it now and try and, be the modern day has everything mum.
Yeah, like you can have it all. And I hate it when there's people out there spruiking that, like, oh, you can have it all. You can have this dream life. And it's like, well, no, some shit has to fall down, and so and I think it's partially like, I don't know about you, but I developed over time just so much suppressed anger. And rage, which I feel like is really important to talk about. I just remember like throwing the dummy, throwing the bottle, just being really angry because I felt like my life was so affected and my husband's wasn't, like it was, but in a different way. So I felt like so much already got taken away from me, like so many opportunities and so many things. And like you said, in your career and whatever projects you're working on, you feel like, well, if I don't do this now, that train's going to get away from me, So that's why there's that big sense of urgency to do now. While in the meantime, it's just about having that like faith, like I will continue to have opportunities. It's okay. They might not be now. And even for me, I've been trying to write a book for like the past 3 years, and then I realized that most people that are writing books are in their 40s and their 50s. You know what I mean?
They have the time.
Exactly.
Right?
So in a way, I'm like, oh, but I don't want to do that shit when I'm 50. I want to do it now when it's fresh in my brain because by then I'll forget. You know what I mean? I'm already so forgetful now. It's not forgetfulness, but it's about prioritizing those things in your head. So how did you feel? Of course, like there's that tension, So how was it for you, like grappling with that? Because you had spent, you went to uni, you spent so much time carving out your career, and then you see all your friends flying off into the distance. And then there we are covered in like vomit and spew and shit and all this stuff. And you're just like, really? Is this my life now? And then it's that head fuck of having to like, what do I do now? How do I do this? How do I move forward with my life and my relationships and work and this child all at the same time? So how sort of your projects that you have, how has that helped you cope with everything?
I think it's all about, it came down for me to perspective. So I had the same, and being a young mum as well, I had 2 kids before I turned 30, which is, these days, is really rare. I was the first of my friend group to have kids. They still haven't caught up. No one's pregnant. I'm like, come on, guys, we got to go through this together. And when you are the first, it can be really isolating in that sense as well. So, but again, it's all about perspective. And I very quickly, when I was in that whole of, and we all do it when your kids are, 0 to 6 months old, you're not sleeping and you scroll on Instagram while they're having a nap. And I thought, oh my gosh, everyone's out to dinner. I'd see a friend of mine go out to dinner. I'd see on LinkedIn a post of a friend, getting a promotion. And I thought, it felt like my life had just hit this pause and everyone was well ahead of me in the race, right? Well ahead of me in the race. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is bad. But, I very quickly came back to, to the realization that we all go through this period as a parent, if you don't choose to have children, that's fine. And that's your life and that's amazing. But if you choose to have, you will go through this period in some sense. Now, the anger towards fathers and the fact that they, I guess, don't have as much of a pause or as impactful as a pause is out of our hands, right? That's just not something that we can control. So we need to be able to learn to let that go. But in terms of other mothers and other parents who are at home and taking time to raise their children and sacrificing their career and their projects and, their passions, we all will go through this. My friends will go through this later. And where will I be? Well, I'll have 2 kids perhaps in school. And that's when I'll be doing catch up and I'll be, hopefully getting promoted and launching projects. It's just about accepting a pause rather than a complete stop and knowing that you will be able to press play very, very soon. In the meantime, dedicate some of your time to your projects and things that make you feel good and make you feel like yourself again, because we do tend to lose ourselves in motherhood. So, allocate, whether that is even an hour a week, to say, I'm going to work on that book, or I'm going to go out with my friends for one dinner a month, just to find yourself again, because that's what we lose in motherhood. But also just have that perspective. It'll all start to catch up very, very soon after. And watch, you'll be the one that people are scrolling through, and you'll be out for dinner with your husband because, your kids are grown and they're able to look after yourself, and you'll be on LinkedIn posting all of your achievements. So don't feel like you'll never, ever get there again.
And that's the hard part. I think it's hard having that knowing. Like, how do you have a knowing about something when you haven't done it before? You know what I mean? It's like, that's the hard part. It's like, how do I keep the perspective? How do I, amongst all this mess and amongst all this clutter and all this noise of like, just such high sensory overload, like Peppa Pig playing or some cartoon or Bluey, and then it's like, I don't know, your pot's over boiling and you're just like, oh my God, oh my God. In those moments, it's so hard to keep perspective. But I think like just regrouping is, and like you said, pausing is totally okay. Pausing doesn't mean you've lost it forever. And that's the thing, because you feel like you're breaking up with your old self. And that in itself is such a journey, because for me, it was like, that person is forever gone. And I had to become okay with that. Not forever gone, like, or she had just left, but it was in like, even I forget about what you did in your bloody at that time. Forget about what you did pre-veto. All that matters is you now. And that takes time, hey?
It does take time. And it's a state of, they say as well, you mourn your old self, right? That's where the shock of motherhood comes in, and you feel like you'll never, ever, ever have that life again. But the way I think about it is that I'm just a better version of myself. When I went back to work after I had Noah, and he was around that 8-9 month age when I did, I have never been as efficient as I have been, because you know what, as mums, we are so great with our time, and we're great and we're dedicated, because we do not want our time to be wasted anymore. So I've never been a better worker, a more passionate worker, a more efficient worker. So honestly, I know it's really hard to let go of that old self of yours, but trust me, you'll very, very soon realize that you are only a better version of that.
Oh, 100%. Honestly, like I look back now and I think, fuck, I've grown so much in the last 4 years, and I couldn't be more thankful. Like, I literally look at Vito and I'm like, thank you so much, and he's like, thank you, mummy. Like, he doesn't realize the amount of like how big that moment is. And I go to him the other day, I was just feeling like shit. I'm like, Vito, am I a good mummy? And he looks at me and goes, yeah, mummy, you're awesome. And that did it for me. That did it for me. I'm like, I don't even care how many downloads I get. I don't even care. I don't care, man. You know what I mean? If I can just live like this forever, I'll be so happy. And just watching him like on his bike, no training wheels, like going straight to the toilet, like just seeing all these things that I never thought I would see, and them actually now being here, like that's our reality. I'm like, far out, Ivana, I wish you like let go more. I wish you surrendered more, enjoyed more. And like now I am, because it's like, I don't have to do as much, right? Like physically for him. But now it's dealing with all the emotional stuff. Like, whoa, it's a lot. And even my sister said, it fucking gets harder, man. And I was like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Because I was like, I know better. And then she's like, of course. Like, she had 2 kids. She's older than me 5 years. Like, she knows. She's like, you'll see. Because I remember holding him and I was like, when does it get easier? And he was like 1 month old. Like literally living for a whole second. And I was like bawling. And my sister's like looking at me like, what else are you supposed to do, right? To let one person who's just losing their shit. And I was just like crashing down. My sister's like, well, when they're 4 or 5. And I'm like, 4 or 5? I'm like, I don't have that amount of time. Like 4 years seems such a long stretch. But now here we are, he's 4. And I'm like, he goes to school next year. Do you know what I mean? It's like when people say enjoy every minute. I'm like, oh, shut up, man. Like just, but it's so true. I'm like, now I know why they say it. Like, so how has it been for you? Like, with all of the projects that you have, how did you always have this creative outlet before you had children, or was it birthed from the kids?
I definitely had it before kids. So it is a big part of who I am, and was before, and is now that I'm managing some time with it, that Leo's a little bit older and it's a little bit more manageable. But I definitely have always had like a creative outlet, love to I worked in radio, I worked in TV right before I had kids. But I think once I had kids, I very much allowed myself to delve into that space. So that hence why, you know, I'm now writing for 9 Honey Parenting, which is such a blessing to be able to do that during a time at which I'm right in the thick of it. I really just answer questions about why my kids are, you know, like terrors. That's really why I took the job. But, you know, it's really amazing to be able to work in that space. But I think as well, what I've allowed myself to do is really immerse myself in parenting and childhood and kids and toddlers and babies and all sorts of things, and really utilize this time to, I guess, complete all of my projects that I'm wanting to do. So hence why, you know, I'm launching the children's book, which is a really exciting time for me, and hence why, you know, I shared the podcast as well as going to therapy. It's honestly just what I'm going through at the moment, and I love to share that, and I love to be really raw and open and honest about it, because I don't think that we have enough of that going on in this society.
Oh, 100%. And take us a little bit more deeper into, because you have a big Instagram following. Well, to me, it's big because it's authentic. So it's not like board followers. It's not, you're not just sharing the glitz and glam, like look how good I look, or like, which it's so important to do that when you do look good and you've dressed up and you're like, fuck yeah, I'm totally feeling myself. I have to put this out in the hemisphere because this is not going to happen again for another few months. So I'm not against that at all. But I think I just see so much perfection out there that I just think it's a warped sense of reality. And it's fine because this is what people do for work as well. This is how they pay their bills. So that's cool. But what I love about your account is like you're really honest and really authentic. And I think it just shines through. And you make people laugh. And who doesn't like to freaking laugh when you're crying and like, I don't know, crying. You know, when they say don't cry over spilt milk, man, when you spill the milk in the middle of the night, you fucking cry. So it's like, tell us a little bit more behind your children's book. Like I have it here. It's so cute. My mummy loves fudge. Like it's so awesome. Thank you for sending me this like PDF file. I printed it all out. And you know, you've got a little bio here about you. I've also listened to a few episodes of your podcast that you did. Like you've done so many amazing things. Also your PDF download checklist thing. That's really cool. Cause like you as well, people always ask me like, what do I need to get for my kid? Or what do you think? Or they're having an emergency Caesar. Then afterwards, like, so it's really great that you're getting everything out from your brain onto paper or onto something physical. So how does it feel to see it all completed now?
It's really exciting. And I think that, you know, before I had Noah, I was the same. I just used Instagram to make sure I was posting. If I went out and got a really good photo, that was going on my grid, you know, that was all about Instagram. I loved sharing, you know, my life on there with just my friends and family. But after I had Noah and I went through postnatal blues, a big part of, I guess, me getting out of those was I just started to find the funny in my day-to-day. I just was in such ridiculous situations every day, you know, whether it was, you know, my husband would walk through the door and the dog would be licking the baby's feet and I'd have like milk pouring off my shoulder and you know, I know you can feel you already, as I explained, I can feel the frustration, right? But it's funny. Like it's a funny scene and a scenario. And the only way I could get over the frustrations of it and like the craziness of my day was just to laugh about it because it was so ridiculous. And so I just started sharing that online and I got this amazing response from mums because we weren't sharing enough of that, right? Everybody on Instagram was posting these amazing photos and videos and, you know, had their babies in cute accessories and blah, blah, blah. Well, I wasn't doing that. I was literally at home all the time in COVID as well. And I was doing things like, you know, trying to get my baby to sleep and, you know, rocking them in ridiculous ways. And I had, you know, puree being spat on my face, whatever it was. And I started just sharing those everyday moments, which was amazing because I got this community of mums just saying, oh my gosh, I literally was in that exact scene today. And that's really nice. That's a really nice lift in the day to know that at least one other person understands the frustration or the craziness that you went through that day. I think that's really uplifting and that definitely helped me. So I managed to, you know, connect with a lot of mums in that sense. And that's when I started, you know, working on those projects, making sure that I always had that sense of humor within them. So hence why, you know, I wrote the children's book. Now, My Mummy Loves Fudge is called Fudge, stands for fuck.
I love it because every time I was reading the word fudge, like I was just laughing my head off. I swear, like just seeing like one kid crawling, and I love the illustrations. They are so good, like they're so accurate, and they're really, your kids are so cute, man. Like they're so cute, and just the whole thing, like I was just smiling, like my cheeks were hurting, and I was just like, oh, you go, girl. Like I think just seeing another mum just like thriving and just doing what she loves doing and putting good content out in the world and bringing projects like this is like, oh, I'm not alone. Like, do you know what I mean? It just gives you that sense of gratification. Like, man, we're in this shit together. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody might be in a
Yeah.
supersized yacht. Somebody might be in a little canoe, you know, but it's like we're all swimming in the same ocean of shit. And
Yeah.
here you are just like capitalizing on it, which I love. So tell us, a little bit about like, so have your kids have obviously read it, you've read it with them. So what do they think? Do they know it's about them? Like your older son must?
Yeah, so Noah definitely knows it's about him because I guess the main character is based on him, and I worked with this amazing illustrator to be able to bring him to life. So it's really adorable. He like points at it and says Noah, and points at the mum in the book and says mama, and throughout it as well, you know, because this for me, it's not, you know, I'm not doing it at all to become some sort of millionaire. I really don't care. I just wanted a book on the bookshelf to really like capture my life during that time. And so every page, whether it's, you know, him spilling food on the floor, that's his bib, you know, that he has at home. And that's an illustration of it. And there's one scene where, you know, the mum is crying and yelling out fudge and trying to get him to sleep. And that's his comforter in the cot with him. So it's really nice kind of like memento of this time that I had with him. And I wanted it to be really legitimate scenes that every single mum can turn the page. And as you said, it makes me so happy when you say that, like, smile and grin, because you know it's funny moments that are so crazy in the moment that all you can do is scream at the top of your lungs, but you can't say the F word, but you say fudge instead.
I know.
So
honestly, I think as they get older, you get more comfortable to say the F word. And we're like, Victor, don't do as we say, okay? Because, you know, like we're having woke parents. It was like our parents always swore, but we never swore because, God, it was like, well, kids should be seen, not heard, first of all. We used to get stuck in a room. If you were 1 year old or 18 years old, you were all children. And you're all stuck in a room while all the adults are smoking and eating meze and like with the toothpicks and music blasting, and you open the door and you're like, can I come outside? And your dad just gives you the death stare because how dare you interrupt like the walk session. And Andrew and I went recently to watch Mary Custis, you know, at the Powerhouse in Brisbane, and she was so freaking fabulous. Like she talked about her infertility journey and her motherhood journey and becoming a mum at like 50 and all these things. It was just beautiful to watch her on stage. And she said that before her dad died, like he always said to her, you know, Mary, find the funny. You've got to find the funny, but in a Greek accent, you know, it was a lot funnier when they said it. And it just made me think like it's true, because if you don't laugh, you'll cry. And it's fine to cry too. And it's fine to do both. But it's like you do have to find the funny, because otherwise, how else are you supposed to get through this life? Like, how else are you supposed to get through these really tough preschool years? They're the toughest. Like, so when you're sort of looking at your kids, how does it make you reflect on your childhood? Like, because obviously, you know, when your kid like, oh, Mum, what was like when I was 4? Mum's like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, just 4 of us. She's like, I don't remember. Like, she's like, why are you interested in that now? I'm like, because I have a son and my son's growing. So naturally I'm interested, like, what was I like, you know? So looking back now, how does it make you reflect on your own childhood with your mum and dad?
And, you know, that goes back to as well the fact that we unfortunately didn't get to grow up with all of our cousins running around, right? And my partner, Nicholas, who's Arabic, so he has a big family, and he was lucky enough that his entire family migrated here and grew up with all of his cousins. And I always remember from my childhood, my fondest memories, especially when I lived in Macedonia, was just running around with my cousins. You know, we could have been together, as you said, for 7 hours. You know, the parents are drinking a score and they're, you know, having their meze and they're getting the ivar out, and we're just like playing and playing and playing. And it felt like it was endless playing, and you just never ever wanted to hear your parents say, oh, we've got to go home. And so now, especially with Noah at this beautiful age, he's 2 and he's a toddler and he's talking so much. My favorite thing to do is honestly just see him play and give him that opportunity to be with kids his age and play and find things out. So myself and my sister luckily both have kids. She has a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and luckily we live very close together as well. So I spend as much time as I can just honestly putting them all together. She'll bring them here, I'll go over there. Because for me, even though, the struggle is real, I've got to get 2 kids in the car, I've got to pack the bags, pack the lunch, all that sort of stuff. It's worth it because I want to see him and I want him to have that, because I only had, it was as special as it was. I only had a limited time of that, not physically being in the same place as my cousins. And my husband was lucky enough to have that and sees the value in it. So that's the biggest thing I try to now do, is just give him opportunity to honestly play and learn and be with his family and be with his friends, which is another reason I bloody love daycare. He gets to run amok and I get time to myself.
And it's like you get him back home. It's like, okay, you've played so much. Like, you don't really need to play now. I mean, you can just go in the room while I go do other things. Like, but that's even what I remember from growing up. Like, that was my whole childhood. Like, ex-Yugoslavia days. Is we literally just played and played and played until our feet were black, and we would, like, I don't know where we were, climbing trees. Like, I don't even know. We used to play with marbles, like literally the simplest things in the world. And mum would just be on the balcony, like yelling out for all of us to come back in, like mumbling up everyone's names. Like, she still calls me my sister's name, and then me and my baba, she'd like call, I don't know, my brother's name, the cousin's name. I'm like, do you guys even know our names anymore? Like, just give us a number. Because she'd be like, oh, Gabriella. I'm like, Ivana. She's like, oh, Ivana, yeah. I'm like, dude, what the hell? But it was just
so valuable in that carefree parenting, though, right? Like,
but my mum never played with us, literally.
Yeah,
like I get the guilts, man. Like, I get the guilts. Like, but I'm not. She made a bloody fresh meal every single day, so can't compete with that, right? You know what I mean? Can't do it all, which is fine. But it's like I get guilty if I don't play with him Lego for an hour a day. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm like actually doing life, like managing our whole entire life, and also trying to work. So when my mum like looks at me, she's like, Ivana, why do you feel bad? Like, this whole like feeling bad thing, like they can't really in a way relate. Like, they can in terms of like reprimanding when I smacked Vito like once, literally it was so soft, and then he vomited that night and I beat myself up for 4 days. I cried. And my mum was like, why are you beating yourself up? You are learning and he is learning too. This is your first child. Like, you're both learning the rhythms together. And with every new child, the same thing will occur, even though you're a mum and you have more experience. And like, just the way she put it to me, I was like, yeah, you're right. And, they didn't have this complex about not playing with us. They're sitting down, drinking their black coffee, with the sugar cube, and they're bitching about their husbands or whatever, or, about whatever they're talking about, the lady down the street. And us kids were just playing. So it's like they didn't feel guilty that they were communicating and hanging out. That was their therapy. And then here we are, like, feeling guilty that we haven't made them pasta, like, from bolognese sauce from scratch, or we haven't played with them Legos for an hour. Like,
That's, I think, and that's the issue I find as well. And it really infuriates me with, I think we've lost the simplicity of what parenting can be. And that's why we have so many parents these days with anxiety and falling into patterns of depression and falling into, the horrible thing of mum guilt on every aspect, because on social media everything is about gentle parenting and learning emotions and making food from scratch and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't progress. I'm saying, of course, we should move towards more whole foods, and we should move towards understanding kids' emotions and that sort of stuff. But also I think we can take that too far, and all this responsibility, all of a sudden you're not just a mum, you're a teacher, you are an educator, you're a cook, you are apparently an emotional therapist. You have to make sure that they're crawling before 9 months or something's wrong. I'm not, and this is the thing. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be focusing on these things and developing our parenting skills. But I think we also need to come back a step and understand that we're not qualified for all of these jobs, right? We're not qualified for them. And let's go back and see, well, what's important here? It's about how our kids feel, the fact that they're fed, and the fact that they're sleeping and they're well rested. And that's what's important. In the day, that's what you've achieved. If you've fed them and if they are happy and content and have had access to some toys to play with, that's great, right? Yeah. Why do we need to also apparently, educate them and make sure they're doing this and that and that and that? It doesn't have to be that complicated.
And it's very stressful because it's actually no joke, like you see mothers every single day. I mean, you can read articles anywhere you want. You can Google it about like so many full-on things happening to them, to the kids, and mothers snap, like mums snap, and it's more common than not. And then you look back and you're like, you wonder why. You know what I mean? You wonder why. And as much as you try and drown out this noise, it's still this silent noise within you, like, have I done enough? Have I done enough? And I remember I said to my husband once in the hallway, we were just brushing past our shoulders as we were in one of our, like, I don't know, nighttime exchanges with the monitor or something. And I was just like, do you ever wonder, like, if you've done enough that day? And he just looks at me, he's like, no. And I was just like, you fucking asshole. Like, making a little voice. I was like, oh, you idiot, I hate you so much,
Yeah.
Really, it was like he just enjoyed being a dad. He just went for the bike ride. He just went for the swim in the pool with him. He just, they had like toast and, something on the sandwich and watching their favorite episode of something. He just like so seamlessly was enjoying it. And I was so seamlessly not. And that part was frustrating me. And it wasn't until I just had to have a good hard look at myself and be like, Ivana, just fucking get your shit together. I had to have this moment of like, no one's going to come and fix it for you. No one's going to come in and clean your whole house and give you $1 million and raise your kid. Like, get your shit together. And it was until I didn't have that moment that I really struggled with it. That's why I just think with everything you've done is just awesome, because it's like there will be a mum out there who might be feeling the same, and they see this and they have a laugh, and it's enough just to get them through that one extra day. Like, so how do you what are some things you want to take on from the way you were parented to give back to your kids?
I think it's going back to that simplicity, and you said it right. Guys or dads have this amazing ability, not all of them, but the majority of them, I'd say, to just like find the value in the basic things in the day or the simple things in the day. And I really want to learn from that. I really want to come to ground and just, give him those opportunities to play, give him the opportunity to be himself, not feel like everything is on my shoulders. Because when I feel busy, I'm not giving him the best version of myself, right? I'm thinking about a million things up here and I'm not actually playing with him. I'm just sitting there, throwing around a couple of Legos because I feel like, okay, well, task one done, play Legos with him. But did I really? I didn't really play with him, right? So I think that it's just that simplicity and that care. And the other thing I would say as well is, my mum, who I have only the closest relationship now with, you don't realize how much you appreciate and closer you get to your parents once you become a parent yourself. She came here, she had no help. She raised 3 kids. They were all, 3 kids under 5 at one point. I can't even imagine, but she did it, and she did it.
And she worked full time. I was reading about one of your articles. She was working full time. And then you guys said that you weren't, like, you guys were missing her. She dropped down a day.
Yeah. Which is amazing, right? And things that I only found out now. So she worked and she raised us. And that's what I want to pick up from her, is that she never, ever, ever, she never let motherhood get in the way of who she was. She was passionate about her work. She's worked in, nursing homes and diversional therapy for 40 plus years. She's just retired. But at the same time, she made sure she was never missing out with us. So whether that meant, at one stage she went to work part-time because she wanted to keep her career going, but she also wanted to be with us during that time that we needed her. So that finding that balance, the inspiration that I use to try and find my own balance, which everyone's is so different. Do not compare yourself with anybody. You find your own rhythm, you find your own balance, and you find what works for your family.
Oh, 100%. And I think it's just what you say about your mum and you is like how much she's impacted you in your life, in your adult life, to not see your kids as a hurdle or something to get over, but instead something to put next to you, not in front of you, not behind you, but to put next to you and be like, let's work side by side and let's do this together. Like actually using them as a driving force for all this good stuff that you're doing in the world, rather than seeing it as like, oh, something to overcome, or, oh, I can't do this because of kids. I can't do that because of kids. Because all I see you is like doing. And I'm just like, holy shit, like, what's wrong with me? Like, you got 2 kids, I got 1 kid, like I shouldn't even be complaining. But it is nice when you see someone else who's just using it as inspiration and drawing it in rather than using it as something just to get over. Like, and did your mum always tell you, I must ask, like, did she always say, take a jacket? Did she do the wog thing? And was she like, you're going to be cold? Like when your back was a bit bare, like throwing the jacket on. Like I do that now and it's like 40 degrees outside. And my husband's like, babe, what the hell? He's not cold. And I'm like, no, put a turtleneck on him.
That is still does that. She still does that to me. And what's funny is it's now gone to the children. So if I don't put socks on my 9-month-old, even though it's 38 degrees out, she's like, why isn't he wearing socks? And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, it's 38 degrees outside, woman. But it's funny, you become your mum. You develop all those little things and those really little nitpicky things that they do, which is kind of cute. And on what you said, the best thing I ever read, which has always stuck with me, and it was by Janine, who is the founder of Boost Juice. I watched this podcast with her once, and she said the best thing ever. She said, kids come into your life, you don't go into theirs. So you are developing their life and you have your family and your unit and they're coming into that. So don't ever feel like you need to adjust that, you know, just because you need to live in their life. You're providing for them. You're building this life for them. You're instilling values for them. So don't feel like it's always like, oh, no, it has to be about them and me changing everything about myself to be able to give them what they need. And that's, one of the things that always stuck with me and what I try and kind of parent by.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. And I think it helps not build resentment either, you know, because then you might be that parent 20, 30 years down the track that's like, I did this for you and I did that for you and you little shit and you weren't grateful and, you know, I la, 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 you know, which like some parents do as well. Let's admit it. I'm sure we'll turn around one day and be like, listen here, you little turd, you know. Just remind them, you know. But how do you know, I've got 2 questions left. It's like, what are some ways that you like to integrate your culture? Because this is a big one for me. I try and speak the language to Vito, like I try and speak Croatian. It's tricky because my husband doesn't talk Croatian. You know, he comes from an Italian background. So, you know, we have the conflicting cultures there, which is also very similar because we're both family driven. So the values are there. But it's only really my parents and my sister that speak the language, you know. So what are some ways that you like to keep that Macedonian culture alive and also your husband's culture alive too? What are some ways you guys try and marry that up together?
So I'm in the same situation. You know, my husband's Arabic and his family speaks Arabic. So I think on both sides, you know, what's great is the grandparents speak a little bit of Arabic and Macedonian to Noah, and, you know, Leah doesn't really understand now. He's an absolute potato, but, you know, soon he will. So that's really nice language. But I think the biggest thing is tradition on holidays. So, you know, we still do Orthodox Easter. We still, you know, when was it that you bake the bread and there's a little parichka in there and somebody gets it when you cut it up in the 8 pieces? We did that as well. The bread, you know, I'm not the best cook. It was very, very bad. We didn't actually eat it, but Noah ended up with the little parichka.
Oh,
so that's
I love
really nice.
that.
So we really try and do that, especially because, you know, we didn't get that as much growing up, but my parents made sure that we did that just as even the small family unit of 5 that we were. And that was kind of our little connection. So I really want to make sure that he gets that and the kids grow up with that and we just stay as you know, connected as we can. And hopefully one day also fly there and visit all of our family. To be honest, you know, they're too young now to appreciate it. I'm not paying for a flight for them because they're just not going to put that money.
I know you're going to waste like 20 grand just to like get over there and they're just going to like do what they do at home and you'll just be running around the fields with 2 kids. Like, yeah, definitely. I think when they're older, they understand the gravity of the importance of being there and connecting with the family and same with us as well. Like, yeah, we want to go back, especially because of COVID times, you know, it's sort of impeded on everything. But even, that's really important to us because I just think like one day my parents are going to be gone, which, oh my God, I cannot even fathom that day, like never, because my parents are eternal figures. They will just never die. So I still like to believe that as their child and live in this la la land. But I said to my husband, you know, literally after that, it's just us. Literally, it's just us. And once we're gone, like what are our kids going to even know about where they're from, you know? So
yeah,
I love that you guys have those little ways to hang on to the traditions, you know, just little things that there'll be markers in their brain for life. So I do listen to Zoe Blaski's podcast, Motherkind, all the time. I absolutely love it. And one question that I love that she asks every single guest is, what's one gift that you would give to all mums and why? So I thought it'd be a perfect way to end our chat today on that. And what would be one gift that you would love to give to all mums and why?
Oh my gosh. Well, are we talking physical gifts or are we talking
it can be like the gift of sleep. It can be like the gift of your book. Like it can be a gift of anything. Like what is something that you know, sometimes it's hard when we don't give ourselves the permission, but then when someone else gives us the permission, it can be groundbreaking. So yeah, what is like, I guess maybe one thing?
Do you know what? I would give them the ability to just be honest about how they're feeling, that they might be angry that day, that they might be exhausted, that they might be hating being a mum that day, that they might, love it, or that they might prefer that the kids are in daycare. I think that we just ignore. We ignore the way we feel. We feel guilty about it. We feel shameful. I know I did, even just before when I admitted that, when I first had Noah, I had that sense of regret. That's literally what it was. I was regretting, that I chose to have children. And I was like, what have I done? But being able to admit that is just the truth. That's just how I felt at the time. And there's no need to feel guilty about it. There's no need to have any shame behind it. It's just, let's talk about how we feel, and then let's try and figure out how to get out of that emotion. That's the only thing we could do. We're only human. Mums are not robots. We feel, kids can have tantrums, mums can have tantrums. So let's just be honest about that. And so that's what I would give, just that ability for them to admit how they're feeling and confide in other people.
Oh, 100%. I think the gift of honesty is massive, because it can seem like such a small thing, but it's actually such a big thing. Because when you can admit things to yourself and you can admit it openly to others, it can change your life. So I love that that's your chosen gift. I love that. And can you please just also let the listeners know, because there's going to be Balkan mums from all over. So can you let them know how they can get in touch with you, how they can buy My Mummy Loves Fudge, how they can buy the book? Are you shipping it all over the world? Can you give us a bit more details, and I'll add everything into the show notes as well.
Yes, so you can always connect with me on Instagram. I'm at Hey Nikolina K, so HeyNikolinAK. And on there is the pre-order for my link. So if you just hop into the link in bio there, you can pre-order the book. It ships worldwide. Yes, I already have my family in Macedonia asking me this. So I made sure to say, yes, I can ship it worldwide. And, most people speak English now, so they still relate to it, still love it, which is great. And it's also a nice book to read, with your child if you are, trying to teach them a little bit of English. It's a really fun one as well. So make sure you connect with me. I always love hearing from mums. Please don't feel like you can't DM me about anything or how you're feeling. It's just a nice way to connect.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being our guest, and thank you so much for giving your time today. Honestly, I know what that looks like just to show up somewhere for an hour. I know what that entails and what the behind the scenes looks like just to show up, for that hour for someone. So I truly appreciate it. I really do. And I encourage anyone that's listening, to jump on board and have a look at your PDF checklist, which I think is awesome. My Mummy Loves Fudge. There's a little bio about you there as well. And it's the perfect size too. It's not too big and not too many words. So I think it's really all age appropriate. I really do.
And it's all cardboard. There's no paper. The worst thing when I was having a baby, people would gift me books that had paper inside. Those are ruined.
Oh, they're gone. They're gone.
They're gone. This is every single page is a sturdy cardboard. There is no ruining this book.
Everything that you make is childproof. That's another thing. That's important to mention. No, but thank you, Nikolina, for your time. And I'll add all the resources to the show notes so that people can access that and get a book for themselves or get it as a present for somebody else. So I appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I've had such a blast chatting.
Likewise. So that was the episode. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And as ever, if you did, please consider sharing it with your loved ones and leaving me a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. It really does make a difference to the number of Balkan sisters that we can reach with the brilliant wisdom that my guests and I share. Thanks for being here. I do viđenja.